What happens when you die? Your body stops, but do you? If you're watching this, then you probably already understand you are not just your body, you're a mind, an awareness, a conscious observer. And the age-old question, what happens to that awareness when we die, may finally be getting some answers. For centuries, this has been a mystery locked between philosophy and faith. Is it lights out forever? Do we transition into another reality? Or does something far more complex happen? Something we're only now beginning to uncover? Recent scientific research is cracking open the mystery. From neuroscience and quantum theory to consciousness studies and deathbed experiences, the evidence is mounting. Death may not be the end. In fact, what happens next could be far stranger than anyone ever imagined. But before we go into what comes after, let's explore what actually happens in the moment of death. 1. The moment of death, not the end. When your heart stops beating, blood flow ceases. Oxygen no longer reaches the brain. Consciousness slips away, at least that's what we assumed. But here's the twist, the brain doesn't shut down immediately. In fact, studies show that it continues firing for several minutes after clinical death. In some cases, a final burst of gamma wave activity, the same high-frequency brain waves linked to consciousness, perception, and memory recall, flares up in the moments after the heart stops. This could explain why so many resuscitated patients describe near-death experiences, floating outside their body, moving through tunnels of light, seeing deceased relatives, or even reliving their entire lives in an instant. Even more intriguing, some of these people have recalled conversations and events in the room that were later verified. But how can someone with no detectable brain activity report such vivid experiences? 2. The science of near-death experiences. Near-death experiences, or NDEs, aren't rare. Around 17% of critically ill patients report them, and the numbers are even higher among cardiac arrest survivors. The consistency is stunning across cultures, religions, and backgrounds. The visions of tunnels, lights, and peaceful realms, the encounters with loved ones, the overwhelming sense of peace. Some scientists explain these events through neurochemical changes. A flood of serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins might trigger euphoria and hallucinations. Oxygen deprivation could alter visual perception, but this doesn't explain the accuracy of out-of-body perceptions or the universal nature of these reports. These aren't just dreams, they are structured, coherent, and in some cases verifiable. 3. Consciousness beyond the brain. This leads to a radical idea. What if consciousness isn't bound to the brain? Dr. Sam Parnia, a leader in resuscitation research, studied hundreds of patients who had no measurable brain activity but reported detailed memories of what happened after death. If consciousness is merely a product of the brain, this shouldn't be possible. Some researchers now propose that consciousness is non-local, a fundamental property of the universe like gravity or time. This aligns with theories from quantum physics, which suggest that the observer effect, entanglement, and the persistence of quantum information point toward a reality where awareness can exist independently of the brain. 4. The quantum afterlife. What if we don't die? Quantum physicists like Dr. Stuart Hameroff and Sir Roger Penrose have suggested that the brain is a quantum processor and that consciousness is encoded in microtubules at a quantum level. When we die, that quantum information doesn't just vanish, it returns to the universe. According to the laws of thermodynamics and quantum information theory, energy and information can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed, which means the you that exists as conscious awareness might not be erased. It might be released. 5. Time becomes meaningless at death. Many NDE survivors say they experienced their entire lives in the span of seconds, or what felt like eternity. Scientists believe this is because the dying brain enters a hyper-aware, timeless state. As the brain loses oxygen, it may shift into altered perception where time slows or even stretches into infinity. In this state, you could relive memories, drift in a dreamlike consciousness, or experience something akin to eternity within a few physical seconds. If time is no longer linear, then death might not feel like an end at all, just a doorway. 6. The light at the end, illusion or insight. What about the infamous tunnel of light? Science tells us that as the brain shuts down, it may create a tunnel-like visual due to reduced blood flow and random firing in the visual cortex. But here's the problem. People who have been clinically dead for several minutes or even hours report the same thing. And across every continent and culture, people see the light. Is this just a dying brain's final flicker? Or are we witnessing a transition, a perceptual shift from this physical world into something else? Some researchers argue that this light isn't a hallucination, but a gateway to a broader reality, one that we can't yet comprehend within the limits of physical neuroscience. 7. Reincarnation, the consciousness that returns. The idea of reincarnation has existed for millennia, but it might not be just a spiritual belief. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist, documented over 3,000 cases of children claiming past life memories. Many describe people, places and events they had no way of knowing. Some bore birthmarks that matched fatal wounds from their previous identity. If consciousness is independent of the body, then reincarnation becomes not just possible, but scientifically plausible. 8. Consciousness after death. In a 2018 study, researchers found that brain activity could persist for minutes or even hours after clinical death. Even more shocking, some revived patients recalled events that occurred long after they were declared dead. They saw themselves from above. They heard doctors trying to revive them. They repeated conversations that were later verified. These accounts defy everything we thought we knew about death. They hint at a part of the mind that operates outside the body, beyond the brain, an awareness that continues when everything else stops. What is death really? If energy cannot be destroyed, consciousness can persist after brain death. If time stretches in the final moments, then maybe death isn't what we think it is. Maybe death is an illusion, a transition, or even a return to something we forgot. Whether that's another dimension of existence, a quantum field of universal awareness, or something we don't yet have words for, the evidence is clear. Death is not the end. It may be the beginning of something we're only starting to glimpse. If you've made it this far, comment 100% to confirm you've received the knowledge. And if this topic sparked something inside you, make sure to check out the next video recommended on your screen. It just might change how you see reality forever. Thanks for watching.